Hi guys, in this tutorial I have this Ankara fabric which I'll be beading. I'll be making use of glass beads to bead this fabric. Needle, small size needle that can pass through beads, very small. I have size 11 here, and this size will be able to pass through the beads because it is really small, and that is the essence of using this small needle. I have my invisible thread, my thread cutter, scissors, and I also have some other beads which are glass beads, but I will be making use of these beads. What I'll be making use of is the rainbow color, which I'll be using for this practical. And along the line, ensure that your thread is long but not long enough to tangle, because if it tangles along the way, you have to cut off the thread. You have to cut it off, so you have to be very careful when beading. And I also have my tambourine. The essence of the tambourine is to bead on net or Ankara fabric without to make it firm. So the design line for this bead, I'm just going to trace the lines on this fabric. I'm going to trace it all through and bead it with the line. I'm just going to trace it all out and bead. What I'm doing right now is to smoothing the Ankara fabric on my dress form. So I have pinned it down on my dress form and starting the beading. After you've tied your knot with you've tried the knot on you with your thread, so you go ahead and insert it at the first point you will be beading. You just insert it straight into your fabric and without getting it to the back, because you don't want the back of your fabric to be all tattered. You need to have a clean finish. That's the essence of beading. The back should be neat, whereas the front you bead it and everything looks so fantastic. So I'm just trying to create a knot, because if it is not tightened, your job is just going to flop at the end of the day. So it needs to be tight. After tightened, then you can now start running your stitch. So there are different type of stitch when beading, but for the essence of this tutorial I'll be making use of the straight running stitch. So the first thing you need to do is pick up some number of beads. It shouldn't be too much. 4, 3 should be enough. 5, if you're making use of 5, 6, it might dangle, but I used 5 here first to see how it's behave on the fabric. And after you've inserted that into your fabric, you leave a small line, just a small line, so when everything comes up the lines are not that visible. You pick the same amount of bead and just continue the process. You leave a small line, insert the same amount of beads, and just continue the process all through. So that's what I'm doing here, picking 4 beads, then leaving a small line, ensuring that your needle is not going entirely to the back of the fabric. If you need to put your hand at the back of the fabric just to feel it, it is essential. So I noticed that it's not beading on my dress form is not quite easy, so I decided to make use of my tambourine. So this is how your tambourine is being used. It's like a tightening cover in which it has wheels in which you use to tighten your fabric. You just use it to tighten the fabric. So I'm trying to adjust the fabric, but along the line my thread got stuck in between the tambourine. I had to replace it. After doing that, I tighten the tambourine. It must be tightened well to ensure the fabric is tight enough. And I continue beading my work. Just that same 4 beads. Pick up your 4 beads. So this is the way you pick up your beads. You just insert the needle into the beads to pick the number of beads you want and measure. And if you get to a stage and you feel the amount of beads is too much for that point, you just need to insert the number needed for that part. So for this angle now, it is really small and I feel 4 will be more for that part. So the required bead used there is 2, just to cover up that space. So that must be really considered when you are beading. 3, 4 will be too much, but 2 should be enough, and that is exactly what I use, just to cover up that space, because it is an angle and you don't need much bead for that point. I had to adjust my tambour because the fabric became loose. So continuing this stitch, I tied a knot. After, just in case, to avoid it loosening up, I tied a knot and continue my stitch along another angle, just following the lines. So it's basically the same technique, measuring 4 beads, then inserting your needle into the fabric, taking it out, pick up your 4 beads, insert it until I got to another angle right there. Until I got to another angle, I had to just pause because we are going to make a U-turn, which I did. So you have to pause, insert your needle, then continue on another angle. This thing must be really practiced in order to get it. Just get a fabric that you feel has a good pattern and can be used to bead. Even if it is just little, you can make use of any bead for this design, any bead, and create the design you really want. So this is what beading is. When you're beading, the pattern must be really considered. You need to know what is going to be nice on your fabric. I'm basically tracing the line on the fabric. You know, the flower pattern, it looks like a flower pattern on the colored line, not the blue line, and not using the black lines, tracing it out. Is this a brown color? But I feel it's a brown, I don't really know, but I'm tracing along the brown and black line. So I've gotten to an angle. What I did is, after getting to that angle, I tie a knot and start another stitch right up there, just to continue it, because as you can see from this point, there is no line, so I didn't need to touch that. I also did that for the down patterns, which I did the same thing basically. So you just need to run bead stitch where you feel will be nice. You need to really consider where you feel will be nice and which patterns will be okay for your design. You don't need to do this design, you don't need to follow this pattern. Just do what you feel is nice, and you have a good design at the end of the day. So I'm use my nail cutter to cut the excess thread before running another stitch from the beginning, tying a knot first, then adding 4 beads to it, leaving a space, and that. After completing the top part, I suggested that I should add some inner beads just to give it more, to make it more bold instead of the single lines, and that's what I'm doing here. So the beads are running, is it vertical or is it horizontal? Okay, are running horizontally. So I counted the number of beads that could actually fill that space, the lines. The lines are not of equal length, so I just use the bead to measure the line, and if I feel like it's excessive, I remove some beads out of what I've already taken, and if I have enough, I'm just going to run it to the next the immediate line underneath, so that serve as a guideline. I input the needle to the next line and count another beads that will be sufficient for that next line. So that is what I'm basically doing here, counting the number of beads that will fill up that next line. The lines varies in sizes, they're of different lengths, so I need to measure up how many actually cover up each line. So if I notice I have excessive here as well, so I'm just going to take out some beads. And insert that, after getting enough beads, into the next line to make the previous line firm. As you can see, beading is quite easy if you can just get the technique, and it requires a lot of patience because you need to pick up beads, input at a point, redo the process all over. So moving on to the next point, pick up some beads. Picking up beads can be quite difficult because the beads are so tiny and it might not get into your thread easily. If you feel like using your needle to pick up your thread, your needle to pick up your beads is not convenient, you can just unpick and fix into your needle, but you have to be really careful. Ensure that the beads you are picking is the right size for your line size, because if it is too much, if the beads is excessive on that line, your bead is going to dangle like you are creating a necklace. You know how necklace dangle, so that is how it's going to be like. And if it is lower than the expected amount you're supposed to pick, it's going to just be sparse. It's going to leave some lines, it won't be full, and we don't want that as well. It might even make your fabric rumpled underneath. So you must try as much as possible to get the accurate bead required for that line, each line. For this line I'm doing right now, I used 3 beads because that is the amount that could cover up that space. And going down, I used 2 and 1 for the last part. I used 1 and create a knot at that point, just to secure it firmly, because if you don't secure it firmly, everything goes down and it starts to remove, and that won't be appealing for you or your client. You need to deliver a good work, tighten it very well and secure it. So you can now cut that off with your cutter or your scissors. So I went ahead to do that for every other part as well. I can see the designs are popping and it's so nice. You can still go ahead to fill up other space, but I feel like this is enough for this. And if you feel like you want to add some beads more to create a more full design, is okay. And after doing that, I went ahead to package it for my client for delivery. So thank you for staying up to this point. See you in my next video, where I'll be showing you how to bead in details and some things to consider when you're beading. Please do like and subscribe to my channel. Bye and do remain blessed. See you in my next one.